Shilpa Gupta's Untitled consists of a mechanical residential gate swaying back and forth. With each movement, it crashes violently into the gallery wall behind it, slowly breaking it apart. I don't think the sculpture itself is a great work of art. The form in the middle of the gate puzzles me, and not in a good way. It comes across like a random addition to make the damage the gate leaves behind more interesting, though I can't know for sure. The explanation given for its inclusion seems like an afterthought. Additionally, the overall themes of the work are shrouded in word salad. Despite this, I think the sculpture has at least one major point of merit, and that is the gradual damage that the gate leaves on the gallery wall each time it swings. This is not an ordinary gate. It has been modified with knife-like extrusions, and the spikes are exaggerated in length. The imprint the gate produces is less defined closer to the hinge, more defined in the middle, and then makes a severe hole at the edges that even goes past the boundaries of the gate. In some pictures, you can see a tiny imprint of one of the spikes at the very end, before it really starts to wear away at the wall. This, in my opinion, is the overwhelming appeal of the work. The unexpected and captivating pattern of erosion that is produced by this contrived setup gradually unfolding over the course of hours or days. It is an artwork that is not completed by the direct hand of the artist. It is an artwork that cannot be fully captured in a single photo, or even a brief visit in person. It is an artwork that is sculpted by a single repetitive action across time. Behind a glass bell jar, in a foyer of the School of Mathematics and Physics at the University of Queensland, is a glass funnel filled with bitumen, or asphalt, also known simply as pitch. Since pitch has an extremely high viscosity at room temperature, 100 billion times that of water, it has been allowed to slowly drip out for 94 years. Since 1930, only 9 drops have fallen, an average of 1 drop every 10 years. However, it has slowed down recently because it was moved to an air-conditioned display somewhere between 1988 and 2000. The next drop is expected to occur sometime in the 2020s. This is not an artwork in the traditional sense, but rather a long-term experiment. A long-term experiment is an experiment that tests a hypothesis or observes a phenomena at an extremely slow rate. The pitch drop is one such experiment. Others include a battery that has been faintly ringing 2 bells since 1840, and a box full of vials of 2 types of microbes to be opened periodically over 500 years. This experiment is designed to test how long these microbes can survive being dried out. An even older experiment, Lord Kelvin's pitch glacier, is a wooden ramp filled with imperceptibly slow-moving pitch that mimics the movement of glaciers. It began in 1887 and is still moving ever downward today. If you go to the10thwatch.com, you can watch and see the 10th drop from the pitch drop experiment, which could happen any day now. You will find yourself staring in anticipation for the slightest bit of movement that will likely never come before your attention span runs out. You also likely won't be watching alone, as people at the university are also frequently interested in the display. While the pitch drop will eventually run out of material, Bogomir Ecker's Tropfsteinmaschine is designed to slowly add material. The Dripstone machine, started in 1996, is an artificial stalagmite machine. It slowly drips rainwater passed through carbon dioxide and calcium carbonate from the ceiling onto a base. The machine is designed to last 500 years, by which time the stalagmite formed should be a staggering 5 centimeters in height. I had 2 people look at the machine in its current state. The stalagmite right now is nothing amazing, just a moldy hill on a marble plate around 5 millimeters in height. But the machine itself may be more remarkable. It took 13 years of designing and consulting to create, including getting insurance for the maintenance of the machine over the next 500 years. Stalagmites can be grown in a lab at a much faster, though unnatural rate, while this machine forms them at an appallingly slow natural rate. The machine drips once every 36 seconds. The art piece is a reflection on the natural processes that occur over mind-boggling lengths of time. If the machine had started in 1524, a time when conquistadors were still traversing the New World. It would be done this year. I am waiting for an artist to take on the opposite challenge, a slow drip machine using water passed through sand particles to wear away at a rock. In my video, Journeys to Hell, I mention a story of a bird that every 100 years sharpens its beak on a mountain. When the mountain is completely worn down into nothing, then supposedly 1 second of an eternity would pass. The story has many problems aside from the metaphorical meaning. The outside of a bird's beak is made of keratin, the same material that makes up your hair and fingernails. Keratin is 2.5 on the Mohs hardness scale, while most mountains are made of rock that is harder than keratin. So a normal bird would probably deposit more beak material on the mountain than it would wear away. Furthermore, the mountain would certainly be worn away by natural weather and erosion long before the bird ever made a significant dent. If the bird's beak was made of sandpaper containing abrasive particles harder than most mountain rocks, this scenario would work. You've probably heard the only thing as hard as diamond is diamond, which means in order to cut and polish diamonds, you simply have to use a rotating diamond abrasive wheel and diamond paste, and rub the diamond on them over and over again. We use an abrasive paste regularly on our bodies. Toothpaste contains abrasive grits, which are put in to help remove stains and debris from teeth. In one episode of Mythbusters, it was shown that by using a combination of toothpaste and floss, you could very slowly cut through a steel prison bar. Though it would take someone 293 days, flossing 8 hours a night, and by that time you would have only cut through 1 bar. This scenario is still 1,000 times more plausible than the bird's. But the bird's scenario grips our minds not because of its realism, but because of the huge scale of time that this repetitive action would occupy under ideal circumstances. When I think of long-term art, I think of this bird. I think of art that is created slowly but diligently over the course of many hours, days, years, or even decades, typically through a single repetitive action. Yayoi Kusama's Obliteration Room is another example of such a work. Over the course of several weeks, each visitor is given a sheet of colorful dot stickers to place anywhere within an entirely white, furnished room. Dot by dot, the room becomes more and more colorful, getting to a point where the color is overwhelming, and objects begin to disappear into the background. r/place, created by Josh Wardle, functions like a digital counterpart to the Obliteration Room, in that any registered user on Reddit could change the color of a single pixel on a huge canvas at a rate of every 5 to 20 minutes over the course of a few days. Because it was on the internet, collaboration in creating representational images was possible, and different groups frequently contributed their own pixel art. Since it opened on April 1st, 2022, and July 20th, 2023, we may be approaching another opening very soon. These works are impressive demonstrations of the power of collaboration, but these two only last days. Some projects shoot for more ambitious timescales. On September 9th, 2023, a concrete block was set down next to 3 identical concrete blocks on a platform in the town of Wemding, Germany. The last block was set down 10 years earlier. This is the Zeit Pyramida, and it started construction in 1993, and will only be complete in the year 3183, after the next 116 blocks are added, one every 10 years. The project was designed to last as long as the town of Wemding has been around, 1,200 years. Though the project will actually be complete in 1,190 years because they were off by 1. The artist who proposed the idea, Manfred Leber, already died in 2018. It is now up to the town and future generations to complete the project. The time pyramid is an admittedly boring structure, though it has been specified the blocks can be made out of different materials later on as long as they are the same dimensions. However, its uniformity is its advantage. Already, one can see the discoloration and weathering of the first and second block compared to the cleaner third and pristine fourth. On the subreddit r/wellworn, you can find images of objects that have been torn apart by continuous use, floors scraped away from daily walking, a donkey sculpture made to be touched, Staircases worn away from years of human footsteps, and things that have been relentlessly eroded by nature. On the one hand, these are pictures of objects ravaged by time. On the other, in a world defined by impermanence, it is a celebration of things that have managed to endure long enough to be sculpted by the routines of human lives. Weathering is fascinating, and dare I say, desirable. So desirable that even artificially weathered things exist. From pre-ripped jeans, to the kind of weathering painted on countless plastic armor and vehicle models that is added for realism and character. While many of these products are mass-manufactured and identical, no two worn-down objects are exactly the same. Objects will be worn down in similar places, buttons and sharp edges especially, but unless you can find me two human beings with the exact same lives, I guarantee that there are numerous scratches, paint chips, and dents that are unique to an individual's routine with that object. In a sense, well-worn objects are long art, made by accidental artists. I am a long artist. Early in my life, I recall seeing a replica of an oil drill spinning in a rock as a display piece in a museum to show what one type of oil drill looked like. While today, I'm certain the drill replica did not make the indentation in the rock it was spinning in, back then, I thought it did, and I wanted to stay there for hours, days even, to gradually see if the drill would slowly scrape away more material, and go deeper and deeper into the podium. What caused this desire, I can't say for sure, but maybe it was the satisfaction in knowing something in the world was progressing. The assurance I will have something to look forward to no matter what happens in the world around me. That one day, the rock would have a giant perfect hole carved straight through the center of it. There is a certain satisfaction in the incremental progression of something over time, regardless of how pointless that thing is. You are given more time to contemplate, more time to notice and appreciate details, more time to contemplate time. During my incarceration in school, I came up with many long-term artworks to pass the time. I drew a custom pocket calendar in which I would cross off each day, sometimes adding little illustrations for holidays. I once took sheets of graph paper, and each day I would cut out a few dozen squares and glue one on top of the other, until eventually this incredibly thin piece of paper became a tower 2 to 3 inches in height. At that point, I must have stopped. And just recently, I've begun another tower. I have been chipping away at it week by week. Between the start of the last video and the release of this one, I've been stacking Zyn cans to make a tower of Zyn. A Zyn can is simply a plastic container filled with nicotine pouches. I don't have a nicotine addiction, but 2 coworkers do. So I take their empty Zyn cans, drill holes through the center, and then stack them on a PVC pole. I collect about 4 cans a week. Each one is 2 centimeters tall. This room, from floor to ceiling, is about 7 meters tall. At this rate, it would take a year and a half and 350 cans to reach the ceiling. Recently, I decided the base of the tower should be filled with sand, so I can make some smaller Zyn towers and make it a Zyn Garden. It is no mystery what will happen if I keep stacking these plastic pucks. Eventually, my tower will reach the ceiling and beyond. But it is not the end product that matters to me. I get enjoyment from the task itself. The sculpture is a physical record of the cost of addiction and, more importantly, of time passing. The tower and base is mainly made of 4 ingredients: wood, latex paint, PVC, and polypropylene. The plastic will outlive all of us. The wood will probably last for decades, the paint up to 10 years, the PVC up to 100, and the polypropylene up to 500 years or more, all depending on the environment. In that time, the Dripstone machine will have produced a stalagmite 2 inches tall. The pitch drop will have dropped about 39 times. The time pyramid will have 50 more blocks. Future generations will need to complete these artworks. The pitch drop livestream will have to be serviced. The jars at the bottom changed out when they get full. The Dripstone machine requires maintenance, which the artist provided instructions for. The time pyramid must have the town get together to place the last block, if humans are still around by then. In the Namib Desert, the oldest desert in the world, Max Siedentopf hooked up 6 speakers to an MP3 player to play Toto's Africa on loop for as long as he can hope. Max Siedentopf is a multidisciplinary conceptual artist, notably a creator of absurd objects and biting satire. While the premise of Toto Forever is goofy, I think it stumbles onto something quite solemn. The installation is powered by solar panels, and the exact location of it is unknown. In Randall Munroe's book, What If?, the author explains that if all humans were to disappear suddenly, the last light from a machine on Earth to go out would be those on emergency call boxes in remote locations powered by solar panels. Toto Forever will not last forever. Just from looking at it, the construction seems fairly shoddy. Even if it was structurally sound, without proper maintenance, eventually the solar panels will become covered by sand or the electronics will corrode, whichever comes first. However, if all human beings were to disappear suddenly, depending on the quality of its construction, an artwork like this might be one of the last machines functioning on Earth. And so, I listened to that 80s hit, playing alongside the ancient winds of the Namib Desert, and wait. Eventually, the solar panels will become covered by sand. Then, they will truly become the solar sands.